Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, my name's Cary Hegreberg. It's Hegreberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Montana Contractors Association. We typically would support the DNRC budget. This is an agency that gets stuff done throughout the state of Montana. And I actually irrigate with water that is pumped out of the Toston Dam, a DNRC-owned facility. However, the amendment that was put on in subcommittee is not acceptable to our membership. We have two concerns. One is short-term, and that's the impact on the individual businesses that presumed a contract with the state of Montana was a binding document that could literally and figuratively be taken to the bank. Second is the precedent that's established if this amendment is allowed to move through the process. This will be the second time in recent years the state of Montana will have canceled a contract for a project on which construction had already been started and multiple firms had already incurred significant expense. As evidenced by the handout that I just distributed, it's a newspaper article from 2012. It was unacceptable then for the state to cancel a contract. It's unacceptable now, and it will be unacceptable in the future. Canceling that project on Nob Hill cost the taxpayers of Montana $3 million for a project that never got built. At question here is, did the DNRC have the authority to make the agreement for leasing a new building without having first secured a legislative appropriation? And did the developer knowingly sign a contract that clearly stipulated the lease agreement was predicated upon an appropriation from the legislature? Members of the committee, when a state agency puts ads in the newspaper, issues a request for proposals, asks interested firms to submit elaborate design and engineering proposals, costing them tens of thousands of dollars, don't those businesses have the right to presume that the agency has the right, or has the funding to pay for the project? In this case, final approval was done by the Board of Land Commissioners, which includes not only the governor of our state, but our Attorney General. Wouldn't most of us, as prudent individuals, presume that a project like that has the full faith and credit of the state of Montana behind it? If this amendment is intended to send a message to the DNRC and to other state agencies, we would ask, who is it really sending a message to? And what is the message? First, the message goes to a developer, a general contractor, numerous subcontractors, material suppliers, and vendors that thought the state of Montana was going to honor a contract. Instead, it appears that they are intentionally going to default on that contract. Financial harm will be done to numerous local businesses that will not have work to perform this spring. The very fact that this amendment is hanging out there today is a cloud hanging over that project. There's a date certain that that project is supposed to be constructed by. And every day that goes by is a day that the developer contractor is incurring costs, wondering if they're going to get paid for it. This amendment also sends a message to construction firms, banks that finance projects, and landlords throughout the state that they can't trust contracts with the state of Montana anymore because politics can pull the rug right out from under them. Now imagine if you're a farmer and you have signed a lease with the federal government for Conservation Reserve Program, a 10-year lease to put your land out of production and put it into the CRP program. So you don't plant a crop that year. Instead, you incur all the cost of planting grass and shrubs as the contract stipulates. And then one day you get a letter from the federal government saying that Congress is no longer going to fund the CRP program. Well, you can about imagine how phones would ring off the hook at our congressmen and senators' offices. And this situation is exactly like that. If this amendment stays on the appropriation for the DNRC, it will almost certainly result in litigation. And will taxpayers cough up another $3 million and have only a vacant lot right down here to show for it? What about the beneficiaries of the trust land? That didn't really come up in this discussion, but there will be financial harm to the beneficiaries of the trust land that were supposed to receive the lease payment. In the future, some developers, general contractors, may actually refrain from bidding on state projects because of the unquantifiable risk, as demonstrated by the Nob Hill project and now this project. So what does that do when you limit competition for construction of state projects? It raises the cost. Banks may refrain from financing projects in the future based on this type of risk, that an appropriation bill after the fact can cut the rug out from under a project. If the problem is the law that allowed the DNRC to get this far down the path in constructing a building that it intends to lease, then change the underlying law. The harm here is going to go to private businesses, both now and in the future. The harm is not going to the agency. We ask you to pull this amendment off the bill, find other ways of dealing with this issue, and we appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hegreberg. Additional public comment.